Hmm. Primitives, primitives, primitives. Somebody conquered them, somebody didn't. But in this video, I'm going to show you everything that's possible to do with primitives for now in Paint the Town Red. Well, first of all, yeah, that's a big room. First of all, primitives can be found in Edit Props submenu, Props. Oh, sorry, Props. Oh, yeah, there they are. And let's just select this cube because Paint the Town Red is all about the cubes, and I'll just set it here. Yeah, everybody loves cubes. And there we are. Yeah, that's a primitive. So what can we learn about it for now? Well, first of all, there are new hotkeys in this section. So for example, if I select this lamp, you see that it only has move or rotate hotkeys, but when it's about primitives, there you can also see a new parameter scale, and this parameter allows you to change the size of your primitive by each of 3 axes. So for example, if I press the R key on my keyboard, you see that the showcase of this axis has just changed, and if I drag and pull from this side, yeah, we can see that this cube now is no longer a cube. And when it comes to Y, it also changes, and now we have some sort of a giant crate or whatever. And yeah, that's how you can change the size of your primitives, and also you can rotate them, which is really awesome comparing to the boring platforms which can't be rotated. And also you can not only rotate or scale your objects with the hotkeys and your mouse, but you can also type in the parameters in these boxes. But if you take a look at this, they look really weird. They don't look like something sensible, and that's okay. That's one of the glitches, because primitives are quite unstable for now, and I think that this will be fixed later. So yeah, it's probably better to edit primitives using your mouse, because this is a way more reliable way to do it. So let's delete this cube and get to some other parameters. So speaking about the painting, you can paint primitives the same way with painting rooms or with painting platforms. There you can see the same menu, and as you can see, this is the common paint, the glossy paint, the textured paint, and this is the brand new feature of primitives. You can change the texture scale by 2 axes, X or Y, and this this helps you to create some more colors. So for example, if I set this to 5, yeah, there we go. You can see that this thing is now completely different from the previous. And same for bumped textures, and same for the transparency. So here we are. Yeah, you can see that this is the same cylinder. There we go, but it's just transparent, and also it has its own shadow, and that can also be seen in the game, and probably that's not so cool, but whatever, we have this shadow, so now you're gonna live with that. And now about the main course, now about the moving, the animation, about all the things that people are interested in when it comes to the platforms. So here I have a few different cubes prepared, and each of them has its own parameters. I mean, each pair is a showcase of a different parameter. So let's start from this one. And what are we going to discuss is this start moving on path box. You can find it in properties under the position and rotation features. there are match path rotation, collision, and start moving on path, and that's what we start from. And as you can see, the red cube has this parameter turned on, and the blue cube has this parameter turned off. So what does it mean? If I go to my logic section, then you should see that these are the paths of these cubes, and each cube is attached to its own path, and also it's attached to the button of its own color. So if I go and launch my level, as I said, if I launch my level, then you should see that the red cube starts moving immediately, and that's because its own parameter start moving on path is turned on. So this basically means that the cube will start moving on path instantly once the level is started, and when it comes to the blue cube, I need to activate his path first, so that's the only way to make its path working. Alright, pretty clear with start moving on path, and now let's go to this corner of the room where we'll discuss the match path rotation parameter. So here we have our blue cube with match path rotation turned off, and the red cube with match path rotation turned on. Now, as you can see, both of them don't start moving on path, so I need to press the button to activate them, and let's go to the editor and see what happens. To be honest, I don't really feel that I should demonstrate that, but as it's a complete course, then I think I have no choice. So if I press on this button, and when this cube starts moving, you can see that it keeps its position the same, it doesn't rotate. And if I press on this button, then you should see that the red cube starts rotating while it's moving, and that's because it has its it has a different parameter of match path rotation. So yeah, it helps us to create some more funny some funny features. Poor guy. Let's get back to the editor. The next parameter I'm going to tell you about is such parameter as collision. So if I get to the second option in this list, then you should see that it says collision, and for this wall it's turned off. And for example, for this primitive, for this column, it's turned on. And collision is a simple parameter, and it just makes your primitive pretty same with platforms. Yeah, with platforms. So it's just a different sort of not boring platform, and of course it allows you to climb onto it if it's moving, etc. But when it comes to the non-collide objects, it allows you to do some funny stuff. For example, you can make a secret room, but I think it's gonna be way too secret. Okay, let's get to this corner of my room and let's discuss the next parameter. We've already discussed match path rotation, collision, starts moving on path, all the scales, and now it's turn off the path speed. So yeah, you can set a different path speed parameter for your primitives, and for example, for this red cube it's set to 5, and for this blue cube it's set to 1. And before we get to the test, let me tell you about the difference in creating paths for characters and in creating paths for primitives. For example, you have two characters, and if I go to the logic edit menu, then you should see that this path has this arrow moving really fast, and this path has arrows moving really slow. So that's the way these waypoints work for the characters. So for example, if I have two characters and one has only two waypoints at the beginning and in the end of its path, then it's going to move really fast. He's gonna be running, and when it comes to lots of different waypoints attached to each other, it makes the movement really slow. But when it comes to the primitives, as you can see, adding new waypoints to your map won't make primitives move faster or slower, because for them this parameter only depends on the number you set in their menu of the path speed. And yes, one more thing I wanted to show. You need to really watch for your waypoints, because the primitive is going to be teleported to the center of your waypoint. So if your waypoint is placed somewhere on the floor, then there's going to happen something like this. So yeah, be careful with your waypoints and try to set them up. try to just don't forget to watch this option. The next thing we are going to discuss is such feature as grouping. So yeah, you can group primitives with each other or with some different objects. And for example, if I pick this blue cube and then I press my Ctrl key and click on this object, then you should see that there is a new button appearing in my left down corner of my screen, and it says group selected. And if I click on this button, then both of my objects will create a new group. And if I try to move one of them, then all of them will be moving. And if I try to outline one of them, also all of them will be outlined. I just want to say that primitive is always a parent object, and its parameters such as collision, path speed, path rotation, all of them will be attached to all the other objects. So let's click on this button once again to ungroup, and let's see which other objects can be grouped. Of course, it can be there can be a group together with lights, and there also can be a group created with the keys. Keys are also the new object, the new type of object which can be found in the other section. But what if we try to attach some kind of weapon? So for example, here I have this AK. I click on this cube, and here we have this button appearing. But if I click on group selected, you can hear me clicking my mouse angrily, but nothing happens. And here we have some sort of the overlaps the menu. But I just want to say that this is fine. This is the known issue, and it's just happening because primitives, props, and weapons are all different sorts of objects, and weapons have their own parameters, so this thing is kind of complicated, and the developers haven't added this thing yet. And talking more about the known issues, let's get to this last pair of cubes, and let's discuss the last option we haven't talked about before. So if I select this cube, and if I get down to my menu, so here we have this path start point option. So what's this supposed to do? The thing this option is supposed to do is to make your cube, not the cube, is to make your primitive start its movement from the exact point of the path. Let me explain this. This parameter can be set from 0 to 1. If it's set to 0, then the primitive will start its movement from the beginning of the path. But if it's set to, for example, .1, then it will be placed to the point which is equal to 10% to the 10% of the whole way. And if it's set to .5, then the primitive will appear in the middle of its path. This parameter was planned to add to be able to create the lines of moving objects, you know, like trains or something. But unfortunately, if I try to leave this menu with this parameter, say I put this property 0.5, and if I leave this menu and try to enter it once again, you see that this path start point is set to 0. So this parameter is not working for now. And if I go to this red cube, you can see that its path start point is set to 1. And if I start my level to see what's going to happen, then nothing really will. And that's because your eye simply doesn't see the difference. And this is obvious because because if the parameter is set to 1, then the primitive appears at the end of its path and gets teleported to its beginning, and nothing changes. So yeah. And now, since we discussed all the parameters for primitives, since we talked about the known issues, since we talked about all of their mechanics, let's discuss the question which is probably the main reason you're here: how to make a properly working elevator, how to make your primitive stop moving after making its way, because since it gets immediately teleported to the beginning of its path, it's probably not the best not the best thing to use for creating elevators and stuff. But if you played that Swaying Shallow level, which is the April Fool's joke by Ocean Man about Staying Shadow series, then you have probably seen that after making a rotation, the room stops moving and it doesn't get teleported to its first position. And now I'm going to explain how to make this work with your primitives. So here I have this tiny sphere, and if you can see my logic menu, then you have probably already understand that this is a sphere attached to this triangle of 3 waypoints, and they are looped. So after this path starts working, the sphere just starts moving around, and this is going to take forever if I don't press the button. So let's see which buttons do I have here. Here I have just common buttons of all the 3 types. So this button is this button's effect is toggle, this button's effect is turned on, and this button's effect is turned off. And personally, the sphere has start moving on path parameter turned off. So here I have this sphere, and if I press this white button, which launches the path, you can see that this sphere is is moving. And if I press this button again, you can see that it stopped at the point it were when I pressed my button. So if I launch the path once again and press the button once again, you can see that the sphere is at a different position. And if I simply press the turn on button, and launch this process again and press the turn off, then you can see that the sphere stopped once again. And that's how you can make your stopping elevators. You can just add a logic zone at the end of it, which turns the elevator off after the player reaches the logic zone. And of course you can do some different stuff with these buttons. And yeah, that's basically how the Sway and Shower level is created. So here I have this wonderful map. It's Stay in Shadow the Return. As you can see, I borrowed it from Ocean Man. And now I'm going to demonstrate you how this map works. Here we have the here we have the beginner room. Here is where player gets spawned, and if I try to select this room, then you should see that it's all just a big group. And if I ungroup this, then you should see that all of these are different primitives. And now about how exactly this room gets rotated. Here we have two different waypoints. This waypoint is close to the center of this room, and this waypoint is simply rotated to 90 degrees. And here we have two timers, and they both are attached to one same path, but this parameter this timer has its effect set to turn on, and this timer has its effect set to turn off. So basically that's the way this this map works. Here you have two timers. After a small amount of time, the room starts rotating, and after another amount of time, the rotation stops because there's another timer which makes the moving stop. So yeah, that's how this map was created, and I guess I explained everything that was possible to explain about the primitives. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and that this tiny example in the end was also helpful. So thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time.